Hi, it's Susan from Worldpeacefull. As you can hear, I'm a bit sick. But I think videos can be done whether you're sick or not. Doesn't really matter. Because I felt suddenly to do one, this is the way I usually operate. I just go ahead and do it. I have no idea what I'm talking about, which is good. And I was just thinking about, I'm just picking something off the top of the screen. I was thinking, what's interesting about my own life is that I actually like uncertainty, whereas we've got a lot of focus in the world trying to mitigate uncertainty by controlling outcomes. Whereas in my life, I'm playing with having no control. It's a very exciting place, I can tell you. You live on that edge. You never know what's going to come. You never know who you're going to meet. You have no idea if you're going to get up and go to this meeting or not. But because I have a trust in life, what I call it is reclining into Buddha. And I use that term because when I was in Thailand, I saw the reclining golden Buddha and I wondered, why have they got Buddha reclining? The way I see it today would be more to do with you relax into life. Buddha was not stressed, was not on antidepressants. I don't think Jesus would have been either. So those who had worked it out, or those who had sudden realizations, tended to be laughing. That's why he was called the laughing Buddha. They laugh about life because they realize it's not serious. And the thing is with all of us, because we're all being conditioned, and that's everybody, including those who are the ruling elite as well, they've all been conditioned as well. They're human. They believe the world in respect of those beliefs. And all beliefs are things we've been taught by others that we believe. You know, and there's a gradation on a scale from we accept it as a belief or it's a very strongly held belief. People will fight for very strongly held beliefs. Yet when you go into stillness, you're actually stepping in between beliefs. There is no beliefs in stillness. And what that means is when you let your mind go still, or if you have moments when you're distracted and you forget yourself, spontaneity is a good example of that. That's why clowning was really interesting, because you move through spontaneity all the time. So you're often, if not always, coming from a space of stillness. So it's a different reality in actual fact. It's a very peaceful place. I know when I was clowning, there was no stress whatsoever. One of the experiences I had in Nepal, I remember making a mental note about it, and I was jumping on a local bus with a Rotarian, actually, and I was dressed as a clown, and I got him dressed as a clown too. He really was one. You come to recognise those similar. So anyway, the two of us jumped on this Nepali bus in Kathmandu, and I had my feather duster, so I was dusting the people. Oh, you're very dusty. It's a very dusty city too, Kathmandu. It's not all paved, and bitumen like you'd have here in Australia. They have some really bumpy roads too, far out, where you almost hit the roof in the taxi. Serious. There's a serious gradation, What do they call them? Those levelers that go through and level the roads. Forgotten for the minute. But nonetheless, so there we are on the bus. And I was so at peace in this experience that I just went and sat on people, sat next to people, sat on their laps. These people, a Nepali woman. And I called her Mama. Mama, Mama. And she was laughing. I put my love glasses on her. And you could see the joy in her face. It was unbelievable. And that day, I remember thinking, I've come a long way with the clowning. I actually feel totally at peace with everybody. I never felt fear, not once, when I clowned. I've seen fear, very rarely though, even though there's a popular image of frightening clowns. That's Stephen King. I might actually talk about that for a second. Just let me have my coffee. Otherwise I'll cough. I believe the Stephen King phenomena is a deliberate thing to create these frightening images to, if you like, inject into the world more fear, because you can only control people when they're fearful. And of course he did the it thing. Everyone goes, clowns, it. No, clowns are very different. The real clowns are very different. The joy that's generated when you simply open your heart, and to be honest, you can even take off the mask of a clown and just say happy people. It doesn't really matter. The clown really is just an image that really sends a symbol out to remind people to be happy, to be human. And of course, there are definite mindsets in the world that don't want people to be happy. They want them to be fearful. And all I can say is, I know the world I'm going to live in, and the world I do live in is a happy world. When I saw the joy in those people's faces, you couldn't get more fulfillment. People talk about success, career paths, optimizing, their career journey, the peak, trying to reach the peak of that pyramid. I've heard that said. It's not about that. It's not about a hierarchy. It's not about getting to the top of the mountain. Well, the mountain, yes. Pyramid, no. Pyramid was a different thing. I'm going to actually I will come back to the bus in a moment, but I'm going to go to the pyramid, just into stillness. This is what I usually do for those who have not seen me. I usually anyone can do it. There's nothing rocket science in what I'm doing. All I do is just breathe in, breathe out. That's it. That's your qualification. If you want to go to stillness. I'm laughing because I've seen some stuff about the pyramid and the all-seeing eye at the top. Been looking into that. My all-seeing eyes are looking back at the all-seeing eye. As it's separate from the hierarchy, it was said. This was Jordan Peterson. I might as well just tell you my source because I had a look at him talking about the Illuminati. I was curious. So I'm going to go still again because I'm going to laugh. Just a moment. Always, interestingly enough, whenever I go into pyramids or triangles, I think of like Abraham Lincoln and his Euclides, if I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure I am, geometry, that all is equal in that triangle. Let's see if we can get it right in my fingers, even though that's not perfectly equal. Imagine it to be so. Geometry is about balance. Hierarchy is not about balance. Hierarchy is like a pecking order, and people will argue in nature there are clear hierarchies and pecking orders. Chimpanzees have a pecking order. They're alpha males dominating the group, which is where men get the idea that they were the dominant species, or gender, if you like. Order out of chaos just comes to me. I think I've written a poem called Chaos Out of Order. I don't know. Pink Clown's very into chaos, big time. We like it. because I have to bring that in. See, that all connects. Because a clown will come into a space that's very ordered. Everyone's walking in the same direction, and we'll come in at the side. Or maybe we jump on top of a bench and wave at the people who, through the uniformity, are doing the social convention of walking, wearing appropriate clothes, speaking appropriately in order to conform and belong into what is socially normalized. What clowns do is we come in from a right angle. We're kind of right field. I know I'm hearing the word disruption because that's a risk management term, and this is also a global term for the IT technological revolution is considered a disruption, which indeed it is. Some will justify that on the basis of, I'm saying the pyramid, but it's actually hierarchy. Hierarchy is a buzzword. It's not a descriptive word. It's a buzzword. It's to say that dominance is natural in the structure and that you need to conform to that. It's very hard for a clown to hear that because our nature is not. And there's a lot of people who are not hierarchical. In fact, Edward de Bono, who was very famous, one of the 50 greatest thinkers in the world, he was the one that invented lateral thinking, creative thinking. He would talk about self-organizing systems. And in truth, we came from tribalism. They were self-organizing groups. Now, were they hierarchical? Let me think about that. You've got the medicine person. You've got the chief. So yes, there was hierarchy there, wasn't there? There wasn't many levels of it though. How would they have seen it? It's to do with organising, stability, which is the order that they want out of chaos. Wisdom. Okay, I've just got wisdom elders. They were typically older people, and they weren't always men, by the way. I remember when I was in Canada, the women were the elders in actual fact, and the men went out and hunted. But there was the group of elders was actually the women. So it's not set in concrete that the men always ruled. They didn't. There was a matriarchy prior to patriarchy. Patriarchy is very hierarchical, which is a very masculine need, because men tend to think in terms of structures. Women don't. And then they say women are chaotic. I know that. I've heard that. We're not chaotic. Women are lateral. There is order within the lateral thinking. In fact, I see women as far more organised than men. They organise many things on many levels, their children, their homes, their work. They're very good at coordinating. That's because they can pretty much juggle many things at once. Some men can do that, but not all. It's typically a feminine strength. Women are not hierarchical. We don't go into pecking orders. I'm just having a reflect on women for a moment. Women are relational. Relationships are important for women because they're mothers typically, and that's in the DNA. They tend to relate equally with other women, and they share stories. And that's how they acquire knowledge in order how to raise a child, because children are very, very chaotic. Although within the child, they're not chaotic. So I just want to go back, because words are always limiting. Children are natural. Children are just buzzing around, doing their thing. They got no boundaries, no limits, and that's the human condition in its wild form. We try to, because we organise ourselves into groups, we try to place limits on that wildness because it can appear chaotic. So we talk about things like discipline to hold back your impulses. Although in my life I'm not, I tend not to. I'm learning to be more natural, say what I think, and I no longer care. I'm not invested in the group anymore. In other words, I don't care what the group thinks. And it's not that there's a disrespect behind that, there's not. It's just I no more am fearful of being judged, is what that means. Children are just expressing their energy, and they're very, very creative. They haven't learned to be logical. All children are in the creative. That's why they're always drawing and playing. And the clown is very much the right brain. It's very much the colour, the enthusiasm, the energy. And the feminine is very much in the right brain as well. The left brain is very logical, hierarchical, linearly. And there are men, of course, who believe that the world is in that image. So the real pyramid was about balance of all energy. It wasn't about hierarchy. It was about inner power. The Egyptians tapped into inner power, and all that really is unlimitedness, which is the child. That's why often the child is seen as the goal for people to learn to be the child. The fool, which is my character as a clown, is the child, because the child steps out in the world in innocence. And I know I do. I say a lot of things, but there's an innocence behind it. I'm just saying what I feel. And when you're honest, you'll see in people's eyes when they're really honest, there's an innocence in their eyes, because they're not trying to convince you. They're just expressing out of that innocence. So they're fully allowing you to see who they are. That comes from love. So going back to Nepal, I just got Himalayas hierarchy. Himalayas, climbing the Himalayas. That's climbing the mountain of your life. And I remember, being in this, it was Padua. It's a little town. It's not even a town. What would you call them? Village. It's a village on the side of a mountain. And you could see in the distance the Himalayas. It was just awesome. But these were terraces on the side of a mountain, can you believe? And they had bullocks going past, huge hay bales being carried on the backs of women as well. And you see the old men sitting outside on the benches watching the world go by. And I was in a place that was, what do they call them? It's not a rooming house. I've forgotten the name of it now, probably because I'm a little bit sick. Don't mind me. They were houses, something house. Anyway, they were very flimsily made, these guest houses. That's what they're called. So wooden walls put up, but you can see it's very makeshift. Even the stairs were pretty flimsy as you're climbing these narrow stairs to get to the top level. And there's no insulation between the walls. So if you have to go to the loo in the middle of the night, people eek. So yeah, Cheryl. But that's the experience when you're going out into a remote area. This is life in the raw. And they have a hose in the wall when you're going for a shower. There's no taps, mate. I think there was those sorts of, flat taps to turn it on and then turn it off. And people crushing grain. The village coming together to build things. They were agrarian, so they were living off their hard work in the fields, mostly women doing it. Women work very hard and have done for centuries. But I felt very at peace in this place. I'm not obviously part of the caste system, which locks people into a certain class, and there were rights accorded to those classes. I guess when it first arose, there must have been a reason for them creating the caste system. But equally, today, people are recognising there is equality now. The days of hierarchy of superiority are gone, despite those who are trying to keep it established. It's because we're awakening as a species to who we really are, and who we really are is equal. And what that equality is I see it as a baby's born. It's like, well, you were a baby and you're a baby and so are you. There's no hierarchy there. They all come out the same way, mate. There was no gold nappy. So, yeah, I just find the whole thing of superiority and inferiority incredible, but I know it's part of the ego. The ego's powerlessness. And the ego being the part of us that is the most frightened part. So people who are very egotistical are actually usually very frightened people. Psychology is often the opposite of what a person presents as. So inferior people have a great fear of superiority in actual fact, so they stay below. But the goal really in life, in my opinion, is to know yourself, not as better than anyone else, but really just to see this is your unique blueprint for the world, and to live it in peace and harmony without trying to force anyone into your image. I mean, I do my videos, and that could have an influence, but I'm not doing it to influence, I'm doing it to express. Because I'm living a more natural life now, which means I don't work 9 to 5. I get up when I get up. I go to bed when I go to bed. I also have some very strong philosophies. You need do nothing. Now, anyone in a capitalist frame of mind would go, what? You need do nothing? That's lazy. Lots gets done. I work very hard in actual fact, but I don't force myself to work. I really want to work, and I enjoy work. So I pretty much work 7 days a week, and I never, ever have nothing to do, ever. If anything, it's the opposite. I feel it never ends for me in the sense that I always have work to do. Because then I finish this project, the next one starts, the next one, these are all unpaid. So I live in a situation of no income other than the little bit I'm being sent from my family so that I have food and petrol. I don't actually need a lot either, which is really good. So I'm not suffering in feeling a deficit. There's no recession in my life. And of course, recession is an economic term for 4 quarters of negative growth. They call it, I like the word negative growth. It just means it's not growing. And people worry about that because the whole material reality is dependent on economic growth, because that's money in the bank or digits on the digital balance sheet or bitcoins or gold. And people attach their well-being to pieces of metal or digits, electronic digits, saying I'm worth blah, blah. Well, I'm worth probably about $5 at the moment, which is good. I like it. But my real worth has nothing to do with money. And everyone's worth has nothing to do with money. I'm not interested in someone who's rich. I couldn't care less. I look to see who they are. I'm always interested in who a person is. I'm just going to put my hair up because I'm a bit hot. Part of the fever I've got, I think. But it's going. It's good. It's on its way out. Just shows a bit of imbalance for me. So I'm only interested in who people are. Character interests me. A person with ethics interests me. If someone's unethical, they become unattractive to me, but that doesn't mean they're unequal to me. They're not. It just means that I'm not drawn to a person who's unethical and who's putting up a facade to the world. to be seen to be, because they are feeling so inadequate that they need to supplement their image with more and more things that they call success. Ambition is the same thing. It's people cleaving to things to make themselves feel bigger and better. And all it really is the ego reaching for more because it feels less. And in that sort of trajectory, you'll never really get there. People think, I'm on a career path, I'm heading in this direction and I'm going to get there. I'm going to make it. Well, you get there, and all of those who have gotten there have said that it wasn't what they thought. All I can say is that I'm not seeking to get anywhere. I'm just living out each day in fascination of what I'm learning. I'm a person who likes to learn. My whole life is about learning and teaching, in actual fact. I'm a teacher and a student at the same time. And I find that really, really interesting, because I'm here to expand my knowledge beyond those parameters that we call the normalized sort of system. I'm interested in going beyond into far greater vistas of awareness and knowledge, because that's the potential of humanity. That's the true growth. That growth is going to take us places beyond imagination. The monetary system actually limits us. It locks us into only acting on the basis of money. We're not acting on the basis of what draws me, what fascinates me, what excites me. And so we will make a decision on what's that going to yield. What about shareholder value? I'm going to create another business. I'm going to make money out of this innovation, this technology. And then others are going to look at me and say, look, this person's made billions of dollars. How successful is that person? For me, I don't see that. I don't see it as success. I see it as caught up in a delusional mindset. And people might say, well, how can you say that's delusional? Isn't that the goal of life, is to create, innovation and growth? Not if it denudes the planet, no. Not if the technology works against the survival of humanity, no. I see that as a distortion through economic glasses that are not in harmony or in balance with the natural system. Just going to go back to Nepal for a moment, when I was on the bus and relaxing, in a sense, into the people. There was a real flow that I was feeling, a real oneness that I felt with the people. The love I felt for them was beyond words. It's like, in a way, when a rock star's up on the stage and they jump into the audience and the audience carry them? That's how I felt on that bus. I just sat on one lady's lap, and then I leaned against some other people. Then I sat at the back, connected to the people at the front of the bus, waved to the people outside the bus, like everyone was my friend. Patch Adams calls this friendshipism, and he's quite right. Patch Adams was the famous clown doctor that Robin Williams played in the movie, US movie. What the message was through that film was to reach out in humanity to other people and to feel that sense of joy and oneness with what, can be termed brothers and sisters. That's a fairly typical one. It becomes a terminology when you start to see the world as family. That's why they use the words brothers and sisters. This is the balance. I see the pyramid now. The all-seeing eye, I would say that is what people call God or nature. It's a beautiful looking, and this eye is very neutral. It's noticing everything, and it's allowing it freedom. They call it free will. So this experience we have here is one of free will. You have the free will to choose. Do I go this way or do I go that way? Do I choose love or do I choose fear? Do I fill my mind with violent images watching television or playing games? Or do I choose to fill my mind with amazing, wonderful, expanding, exciting images that feel really good? Because what you think about, you bring about. The world in our image is what happens as you keep focusing along a certain trajectory. And if you're a person who believes you're right and believes that if someone tries to prove you wrong, that they're a threat to you, that's a very rigid mindset that's identifying very strongly with its beliefs as identity. When you step out of identity and they're just thoughts and beliefs and someone challenges you, you go, okay, that's interesting. That's your way of seeing. I see differently, but who knows? Maybe down the track I see like you see. But that doesn't mean the relationship is conditional upon me seeing like you. Unconditional love means I want you to see as you see. I'm not here to ask you to create the world in my image. If I truly love you, I would want you to create your own world in your own image that don't impact other people, unless those people feel resonances with that. Control and domination can come in many forms, and it often comes as the sheep. It comes as the innocuous. It'll come as something that you don't notice. But it'll be a gentle, slow, creeping control over your life, which limits slowly more and more of your freedom, because you're not seen as you, you're seen as an object. The objectivization is at the very heart of the unhappiness that permeates culture. We see in terms of objects when we're disconnected from our own inner feeling. This is when the inner sensing is disconnected. And it can be a rewiring of the neural networks in the brain by the way that we engage in, even with technology. I think technology is a fast breeder of the rewiring of the brain to the left hemisphere. This is why there's a big push for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, as distinct from humanities, philosophies, the arts, gender politics, culture, things that are to do with relating the feminine. There's a disconnect happening today. This creates huge imbalance. That's the real disruption, in actual fact. It's actually not the technology that's the disruption, it's the imbalance that it creates. Homeostasis, which is a biological term for balance, balancing Earth systems, comes from the harmonization in nature. It's a harmonization. It's where things are flowing. And that's your order out of what perceptually can be seen as chaos. There is no chaos in truth. That was something I needed to say in this video. There is no chaos. Okay, I'm going to sit with that for a moment after I have a sip. Chaos theory comes up, and that's self-replicating. So scientists will talk about chaos theory. You see a certain pattern. Inherent within that pattern is the same pattern. It's a little bit like the Russian dolls. You open it up again, it's the same pattern, all the way to the nano size. I can't think of the right scientific word for that. We call chaos things we don't understand. They appear chaotic. Like a storm could hit and you go, oh my God, there was chaos. The branches flew here and the power lines came down and, flooding happened. It was chaotic. What's chaotic is not the scene in front of them, it's the mindset that's watching the scene. Because it's out of its programmed, conditioned response of a world that's in order. Our natural state was chaotic. And I'm using that not in the sense of chaos. I'm using it in the sense that it would appear that way. In truth, it was not chaotic at all. There was order. I can actually relate to that very strongly because my life is unfolding out of the moment. I had no idea I was going to do a video this morning. I had another plan and then this idea came up. So I just went with it. So going back to the scene upon which a person is looking out at a chaotic situation such as a storm and debris everywhere, everything has fallen exactly where it's meant to fall on the basis of an event. We might say it looks messy and untidy, but it's not messy and untidy from a perspective of one who doesn't seek to control and make everything tidy. You can come into, like often people criticize their children's rooms. Oh, it's messy, clean it up. It's actually not. That's the natural state. It just leaves it wherever. Order has to tidy it up and make it look nice. Women are very good at this, actually. Women are probably the creators of this, if we really want to find the source of the problem. They do it because they care about what other people think, and they do it because everything has its place and then it's efficient to go back to the same place. So there's a logic behind it. I'll give you an example of me. I always remember when I was clowning at a school, I was teaching Real Hope program, which is my peace, non-violence, anti-bullying program. I was trialing it. I had a psychologist with me and a mime artist. Now, these women just turned up in my life and offered assistance because I needed a psychologist to watch because we were doing anti-bullying. I'll just tell you what Real Hope means: responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, enjoyment, and service. It truly is Real Hope, Real Hopes. It is a model that brings people back into the experience of universal values. Universal values is homeostasis. If you want order out of perceptual chaos, you have to return to values. As I said in my previous video, the human rights issue came out of a declining values. The actual unpredictability that people are so concerned about is coming from a lack of values. So the problem has not been analysed correctly. They're believing that they have to assert control in order to create this sense of predictability. That comes up in the IT industry a lot because they want control over X, Y, Z. So going back to my moment with the psychologist and the mime artist, we went and had coffee after I delivered the workshop to the children. And it was really funny. We had plates all around us, and the girls, probably the psychologist, she was moving all the plates in around me to see what I would do. And I didn't seek to tidy them up. I actually just reached over and grabbed what I needed because I didn't feel it was chaotic. That's why I can be a clown, because I don't need to control anything. I'm very happy to go with the flow of life, and I feel a great peace when I go with the flow because I have no desire to control. And these women were quite surprised at how I didn't mind being crowded in by all these dishes. I didn't even notice. It was quite natural for me to just adapt. So this is the adaptability that people all talk about but know nothing about. Adaptability is just adapting to your circumstances. You change. You don't try and force circumstances to change to fit you, and that's what control does. Control is always about controlling the environment to make you feel secure. When you're not into control, or some might say out of control, which is not rebellion. It's just you're not into control. You don't actually need to control your environment to make you feel peace. You find peace with however the environment turns up. Those who are the most adaptable in this world will be the ones that are not disciplined. Now, people will say, no, discipline's really important. You have to. When I make a decision to work on a project, yes, I could say I assert discipline there to get it done. But it's not really discipline. I do it because I want to. And I might have a little goal where I'm going to get this bit done and then I finish it. That could be the last bit of discipline. But in terms of me getting up at 6 o'clock every morning, doing yoga, which I don't, then at 8 o'clock I have breakfast. This is the routine we create in the world of capitalism too, or the world of business, not even capitalism. They do it in Russia as well, communism, any ism, any sort of social ordering seeks to create a linear discipline in order to get people to do this at this time and the next thing at the next time. But I'm living in a different way where things just get done, but there's no force behind it. So when I'm clowning, I'm not seeking to make people happy necessarily. I'm happy and moving into that environment, and that creates something. Others laugh, people smile, people connect, you make their whole day just because you smiled at them. But I have no plan with it. So I'm able to enter life without control. Even if I'm going for something, and let's say it's funding, and I don't get it, I don't care. I just go, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be that. It was obviously meant to be something else. You start to change your whole way of seeing in the sense that what turns up is what I want. Therefore, there's no disappointment. I'm not unhappy. This is the balance. This is the pyramid going back. The all-seeing eye is connecting to that sense that it is all appropriate. What turns up is what I want. Doesn't mean I won't go out and, create something. I may do that if I feel inspired to do it. Because I'm working with inspiration a lot, I'm acting from that. That's more fun. It's much more fun, Control for me is not fun. I never wanted to be a manager because I never wanted to control anyone. I don't like the feeling of it because I realise I'm limiting their freedom. And my interest is for people to find their freedom, whatever that is. And that doesn't mean you don't work in association with others, you would. But this is how we learn to negotiate the space. We develop values like real hopes, and that becomes the operating paradigm out of which we make decisions. When I feel empathy, what do I see? I'll go through real hopes. When I feel responsibility, I have the ability to respond, I can do something. That means I'll act. Empathy, stand in your shoes and imagine what it's like to be you. I can't hate you. It's not possible for me to see an enemy when I do that. Awareness is I'm noticing. I go into stillness. There's inner knowledge there. We all have our own answers, right? Love. When I look at you with love, I see you as you really are. If I'm judging you or deciding to move away from you, then I'm not truly in harmony with love to accept you as you are. And I'm learning that myself. Haven't fully got it, not a full master. There have been many others on the planet that have been, but that's the goal that I aspire to, is to love fully. Honesty. This is a big one for humanity at this time because there's a lot of deception going on, a lot of corruption. I've been blown away by what I'm learning. And that's all coming from greed because the whole business paradigm tends to make the focus about the making of the money, not the ethics, which is the process in order to arrive at that outcome. We disregard the ethics. Groupthink overtakes those ethics, saying this is the way we do things around here. We justify it. Oh, look, the company's made this much money, shareholders are happy. We won't worry about the fact that we went under the radar or we source things in a corrupt way. or we created an impression that we were doing something honest and it wasn't. You have to look into your own mirror on that one. And believe me, at the end of your life, you will be taken through. When we pass over, we get a life review. You're shown everything. This is on a spiritual level. You'll be shown everything. You can't escape yourself. You can pretend away many things. You can go into denial and suppress it. But we all, have to face the music at some point. One way or another you will. And it's not a punishment thing, it's an awareness thing. So that's honesty. Oneness is that we're all one, we're all connected. So what you do to another, you do to yourself. If you're harming people, that has a ramification and it will come back to you. It's the law of cause and effect. Peace is the yin and the yang. It's the dark and the light. It's the masculine and the feminine. It is the opposites uniting. Peace is the opposites uniting. That's why I said in my previous video about the left and the right hand coming together. The left wing and the right wing. These are illusionary concepts that have been used to divide humanity. They're not true. It just means a divided psyche where we haven't integrated the compassionate side with the rational side. And to see one as an enemy is crazy. That's what causes disruption and a distraction away from the real problems we have to solve in the world. Enjoyment is when I realized actually enjoyment is, in truth, gratitude. Because I live like the way I do, if somebody gives me food, or I've had someone who's been actually really kind to me, cared about my health and given me all these things, I'll be okay. I was deeply touched by the generosity I received. I've not had the easiest of lives, but I have to say that I've been supported. I would see it as a spiritual support coming through people. It's been amazing. So I felt joy. When I'm the clown and when I unlock joy in others and get them laughing, I cannot express to you the heightened feeling of complete happiness that I feel, and the love that I feel for the people is indescribable. I love everyone, really, and I know that's hard, and it's hard to explain. It's like complete acceptance of people in all shapes and sizes, and it's because I've come into peace with me. It's because I'm loving me. I'm accepting me for who I am, and what a joy is that. I'm no longer believing the lies that I'm a this or I'm a that, or these are all other people's projections. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm a good person, who I am, and I love the person I became. I'm really glad I stayed true to me. That's what brings me joy. And the last one is service. So this is Real Hopes. Service is natural. Service is not a doing good in the world. It's not about philanthropy or pretending you're a non-profit, making out you're serving society when you're serving yourself. There's plenty of non-profits starting up these days. They're called startups, and they're not about service to humanity at all. It's all about not paying tax. Then there's the other non-profits that actually are the struggling ones who are trying to do something good, and they live on very little, but they work very hard for the betterment of humanity. They're the other non-profits. Real service is natural. In actual fact, when you align all your values, responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, enjoyment, when those become aligned within you and integrated, service is natural. You just serve people because they become part of you. You're no longer in the separated self of it's all about me. You start to realize the me is everyone, and you start to serve everyone because they are aspects of you. There is no enemy in this world that I live in, and I believe it's the real world that I live in. I see the illusion in those out pursuing the profits, but at the expense of planetary systems. I understand there are those who believe they can go off planet, places like the moon and beyond. And I'm right, mate. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Or they've built bunkers underground to protect themselves. We are one. There is no protection for one unless there's protection for all. What you do to another comes back. These are universal laws. One way or another, something's coming back in your direction. Now, the only question you need to ask is, what have I put out? You can undo that type of karma, it's called. Unconditional love is the undoing of it. So you're not, just because you've gone out and done a lot of negative things in your life, you don't necessarily have to be stuck there, carrying the guilt deep down. You can release it, just make a new decision. So you know what? I think I'm going to go out and I'm going to follow what makes me happy, truly. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're in government, whether you're intelligence, whether you're a soldier, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a prostitute, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an IT specialist, doesn't matter who you are. Everyone can make a new choice. We're all in it together, I'm saying through my videos, and I'm feeling inspired to say this a lot. We are one. You cannot disconnect from the family of humanity. You can't. You're part of this. Now, we either work together, we listen to other voices, or we create this brave new world. And I know it's already being rolled out, but we can still make new decisions. Can we use some of these ideas for the betterment of humanity in truth? Not as a marketing slogan on sustainability, which it's not, but to truly use that energy in a way that really enables people to experience full spectrum love. And of course, that's what's coming. That's what's here. Love is the power in the universe, and it is, and it's not a human thing. It's way beyond. When you tap into the love of the universe, everything comes into homeostasis. It doesn't come into order. It comes into balance. That is the great pyramid that many use as the argument for hierarchy. That is a misnomer. I send you love, self-direction, peace, and the courage to be who you are in balance with all that is. Have fun. Bye.